Guys, I got to tell you, today is the day that your life changes because my guest today is going to blow your mind. The king, the master, the guy who you think, what would he do? He's on the show today. So you're going to want to do like a screen record. You're going to want to tell your wife to shut up and make a sandwich. You're going to want to do whatever it takes. But we're going to dive in today. So don't go anywhere. I'm not kidding. Don't go anywhere.
So the big question is this: how can we achieve financial freedom, quit the 9-to-5, and live a mighty life? That is the question, and this show will give you the answer. You are listening to The Mighty Mike Show with your host, Mighty Mike Reed.
Man, that was an intro right there. You said you were going to give me a good one. I liked it. What's going on,
Yeah,
man?
Off the cuff, I appreciate you coming on, Mr. R.J. Bates III, the king, closer, wholesaler that we all aspire to be like. If you guys haven't heard of him, it's because you've been hiding under a rock. RJ, welcome, man.
Yeah, excited to be here. Looking forward to talking all things wholesaling, man. Excited for this.
Love it, man. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it for a while too, telling everybody, my mom, even everybody, and they're just like, who? Okay. I'm like, don't worry about it. Just know it's a big deal. So, I love everything about real estate, but there's one thing that everybody bangs their head against the wall about, and that is cold calling. And when I first got into real estate as an agent, and then as a wholesaler, I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And everyone is like, no, no, no. And I, to this day, will tell people, you got to cold call, you got to do it. And then I hear about, it's like coming in this glorious fashion of you entered your information on my website, you trying to sell it. And I'm like, and then it's RJ Bates. And there's this whole other world of real estate that I want to dive in today and talk about, because that's really where you're the expert in inbound leads. And I thought there was some secret. This guy must be a master marketer, and then you openly tell everybody, I'm getting my leads from these few places. But before we dive into that, let's talk a little bit about cold calling. Did you have your bout with this? Do you still do it? Do you have a team that does it?
So we do have a team of virtual assistants that cold call for us. Going back to when we initially went nationwide, it was all done through SMS, so
Right.
texting. So
Yeah.
we have all of this data. Now, of course, there's been these regulations that have come down on SMS that make it almost impossible nowadays to really have that as a main channel of marketing.
Right.
So I have, all these millions of records, skip traced people, we have them tagged where we know, hey, it's a vacant property. They're in pre-foreclosure. They're behind on their taxes. Of course they want to sell. So we have our virtual assistants cold calling those. I will be honest. I personally have never cold called outside of Closers Olympics. That's it. The only time I've ever done it, because I always wanted to make sure that I was putting myself in a position to talk to only the people that want to sell. So, Hey, why not hire a virtual assistant for a couple of bucks an hour to just weed through all of those no's to get me to the yeses, and then let me come in and do my thing. So cold calling is still part of our marketing channels, but it's a beatdown. It's rough.
Yeah. And the crazy part is you think that it's you're wasting your time and you're calling, or you have other people who are calling and you're just wasting your time. But then all of a sudden you get one and you're like, well, here we go, and so it really is one of those things that you got to have somebody else doing it, because otherwise you'll go crazy trying to beat it. So I'm glad to hear that I'm on the right track with that, having virtual assistants calling.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and again, it's about saving your time, right? I mean, we're supposed to be the business owners, the operators, especially when you're first getting started. There's a lot of things that require your attention. And specifically, if you're a smaller operation, when you get a property under contract, what do you have to do? You have to then get pictures, and you have to find a buyer, and you have to do transaction coordination and everything to actually get a check, right?
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, guess what you can't be doing? You can't be cold calling. So it just is a matter of efficiency and making sure you're putting yourself in the right seat at the right time.
That makes a lot of sense, because that even as an agent, when we would call expired listings and things like that, people would come, and then as soon as you got a few deals closing, and you had this, final walkthroughs and all the different things, the title company with the key and taking a picture, while you're doing all that stuff, you're not cold calling, and now all of a
Right.
sudden your leads dry up, and the law of the harvest runs out, and now you got to cold call again, but it's going to be 90 days before you get another lead. So that's where I would love to dive into this inbound leads. As someone who does understand marketing, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I record my own video, and then I start running YouTube ads before I go down this road. RJ, have you
Yeah.
done this, or do you just focus on these third party guys we're going to talk about?
So back in the day, before Zuckerberg messed everything up, Facebook used to have really great tools where you could go in and you could like make your Facebook ads so targeted where it was
Yeah.
like, hey, they Googled, need to sell my house fast. They Googled, refinance mortgage. He took
Gotcha.
all of that away, right? He was like, man, these people were getting leads for like 3 cents a lead, like
Yeah.
I want more money. So he took away all those tools. So now it's a lot harder to do it on your own. And for me, again, this goes back to the same thing when it comes to like, why do I have virtual assistants? I want to make sure that my time, my effort, my energy is always on what I'm really good at. And what I'm
Yeah.
really good at is talking to sellers, acquiring good deals, and selling good deals. Outside of that, if I can outsource that to anybody else, that's what I want to do. And so yes, I did do a little bit of the inbound lead marketing myself back in the day. But that was also because a lot of these pay-per lead providers, they weren't in existence yet.
Oh.
So this is kind of a recent thing since 2021 where these pay-per lead models have come in and really taken off, and really changed our business completely.
Well, I mean, it's really exciting because when you get the idea that you could get somebody that would lots of comments in here. The idea that you would get somebody that would come in here and say, yeah, I want to sell. And yeah, I want, and honestly, RJ, listening to your calls, sometimes I'm like, this isn't real. This can't be real. I mean, you're 1,000% authentic in everything. There's no red flags coming up there. But the idea that somebody's going to get on the phone and go, well, I was thinking I could get 40,000 for it.
Right.
Someone who's from California, who spent some time in Florida, and then I was born in New Mexico. That's my roots. And I come back here, everything's over 300 grand. And here this
Right.
guy on the phone's talking about 40 grand. Where are these places? Do you want to give them up, or is this a secret?
No, I have no problem. I mean, listen, it's mainly the Midwest and then the Sun
Mm,
Belt. That's where the vast majority of our volume comes from.
yeah.
But the thing about these pay-per lead models and inbound leads is you can't really control where you're going to be getting the leads. So what's kind of shifted my mentality is I'm actually verifying, is this a lead in which I even want to pursue? Which is so different, right? When you're thinking about the cold calling model, what you're talking about is like you're beating your head against 100, 200 no's just to hopefully get someone that says, yes, I'll sell. And then now what I'm doing is I'm telling 6 or 7 inbound leads, no, you're not the right fit for me, to get
Yeah.
to the one that I'm saying, okay, you're the one that I want to say yes to. It's a completely different mindset when it comes to talking to sellers. That's why I think sometimes, especially when it's short form like reels and shorts on YouTube,
Yeah.
like it's a minute long. People are like, there's no
Yeah.
way that could be real. It's like, well, the
Yeah.
conversation was like 12, 15 minutes long. But yeah, it is as simple as, hey, do you want to sell? How much do you want? 40K.
Nice.
Then we're just finding out, some information, and it can be a really simple process with these inbound leads.
Wow. So first of all, I want to break that down a little bit. Is this idea that you ask for the price first,
Yeah.
and somebody who came as an agent, it's funny because we would always lead with price first as well, because it'd be like, we want to find motivation, but really they already had a price because they were an expired listing. And I never before considered that part of it, right? When I got into wholesale, it was like it's their product that they're trying to sell. Why would
Yeah.
I tell them how much they should sell it for just so they could tell me no, I knew you were going to lowball me, you know?
Right. Exactly. And that's what I tell sellers all the time is like, especially if they want to say, well, your website said that you'll make an offer,
Yeah.
or they say, hey, I just wanted to see what you'd be willing to give me. I go right into it and say, listen, I don't know anything about your house.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm completely ignorant. It's your house. I don't even know what your objective is here. Are you looking to upgrade? Are you looking to downsize? Are you just looking to pay off your mortgage? Like, if you just shoot me straight, I'm going to
Yeah.
shoot you straight. I think they can sense that early on, especially with it's like, do you want to sell? What's your asking price? If there's a little bit of an objection, if you kind of just shoot them straight like that, yeah, a lot of times they'll just give you the number that they really need.
Yeah, that's what I noticed listening to some of your calls. I'm like, so it's like buying a car. You just call them and be like, so how much you asking for that thing?
Yeah,
Okay, oh, well, let me look at the market really quick. Yeah, no, it's not worth that. I could probably give you this for it. And then
yeah.
they go, okay, well, let me talk to my husband and then follow up, right? How important is follow up in this whole thing?
So it is, especially if there's the objection like that. But I would say my objective on these calls is to get it closed on that first dial. I don't really want to, burden myself with a ton of follow ups and leaving those offers out there to be kind
Yeah,
of, shopped around.
shopped
I,
around.
I don't want that. I want it to be like, hey, how much do you want? I want 40,000. Okay, let me see if I can do 40,000. Yes, I can, or no, I can. I need to do 30. And this is the reason why. And that's where educating the seller comes from, where you're explaining, like, hey, this is how I got to 30. I'm not just at 30 just because you said 40. I'm at
Yeah.
30 for a legitimate reason. So we
Yeah.
educate the seller and hopefully get it closed on that one call. I don't want anyone in my office, and especially myself, I don't want to have to be following up with,
Yeah.
100 plus offers that we made, because you can very quickly get to there. I know that sounds like a huge number, but once you're doing this every single day, you're going to
Yeah.
have so many leads in your CRM that it's like you can burden yourself pretty quickly with just following up, and you're not even able to get to the new leads.
Right, right, and some of those leads just statistically are ready to sell now, and they'll sign
Right.
your contract right now, but you're busy over here spinning your wheels trying to call Sally Joe Raphael that was going to talk to her brother Joseph, but he died because he's an
Right.
alcoholic, and you got to hear all about that too, you know.
Absolutely.
So you got your lead. So inbound. So I know someone who's listening, if they went down the same track I did, they're thinking, cool, where do I get these leads? So we can touch on that really quick. And then I'm going to ask you about the price of these leads because to me, it seems very cost prohibitive. So with that being like in the beginning, when you first start out, and you get one wholesale deal, it's 10 grand. It's like, sure, I'll buy 30 leads at $300 a piece. Right.
Right. Right.
So what's your favorite platform? The absolute favorite one?
Right now it's going to be Lead Zolo. Okay, those are going to be YouTube ads that are going to a website. So, they're going to click on, this podcast right now. And the video that's going to pop up, the ad is going to say, do you need to sell your house fast? Well, click below, blah, 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 whatever
Yeah.
the little video. You don't have to make the
Awesome.
video. I've never even seen it. Some of our students have gone and asked to see it, and they say, it's pretty generic. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like that's great. I'd never
Gets the
even
job
worry about
done.
it. Yeah,
It
I'm
gets the
like,
job
all
done.
I care about is that someone is on the other line that says they want to sell their house. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so those leads, I find are a little bit more motivated than some of the PPC models. And I think it's because if you break it down, what are you going to do if you're setting up these YouTube ads? You're going to say, hey, someone that Googled, need to
Yeah.
sell my house fast. This is who we want this video to show to. Um, you could specifically run your ads on certain YouTube channels, right? Like Zillow or Redfin, things like that. So I think there's a little bit of,
Mm,
Zolo's being intelligent
targeting.
about where they're running
Yeah,
their ads there.
smart. That's really smart.
But there's also proof of, like, I don't even know there's credibility there because it's a video, right? Today in 2023, the fact that they see somebody, there's a man clearly on the video because people think I'm the guy all the time. And I'm not the guy. I'll call the leads and they're like, I saw your video. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't me. But, that's my favorite lead source right now is Lead Zolo. And then second would be Speed to Lead. Those are going to be Google pay-per-click, Facebook ads. And those are going to be in a marketplace where you can go into the marketplace and you can search by the city. And then you can decide, hey, I want to buy that specific lead. Whereas Lead Zolo, you're going to say, hey, I'll buy 10 leads. Whatever 10 leads come in, that's what you get. You get to kind of cherry pick based off of the motivation and some of the little criteria that they show you.
Okay. Yeah, that actually makes a lot more sense because I'm looking at iSpeed to lead. I'm looking at I'm like $300. What
Yeah.
if it's not a good lead? He did say like if it's listed or sold, you could get a refund, which is pretty
Right.
cool. But how often is that the case? Is it difficult to get them to refund it, or do you even worry about it?
It's not difficult. The main thing is if you're recording your calls, like they want proof. I
Yeah.
mean, because these are, there's people out there willing to pay $300, $400, $500 for these leads.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure they get paid. But as long as you're sending proof of it being listed or they're actually not wanting to sell, then they'll refund you your money. And it's an algorithm. They're charging you based off of the location and the motivation. So if it's Phoenix, Arizona, and they're in pre-foreclosure, yeah, you're probably spending $500.
Yeah, you got a lot of buyers there that are ready to go, cash
Right.
ready. So that's pretty cool. And then, but the lead Zolos actually turn out to be more motivated leads, and they're like half the price.
Right. Well, actually, less than that. So
Yeah.
right now, I don't know if you just go to Lead Zillow. I know whatever link that they gave me, it's $100 per lead. So $100 per lead, and that is anywhere in the country, right? And their only guarantee is that it's not going to be listed. If it's listed, then they'll refund you your money. But outside of that, if it's full retail, it's full retail. Figure out how to monetize that.
Negotiate it. Well, the thing is too, I love that you said the full retail because as an agent, like and it's one of the reasons I love Pace's program too, is like you have so many different options. Like if your goal is to try to help the person you're calling, guess what? This is the job for you because maybe you can't buy it from them, but you can list it, right?
Yep.
And if you have a partnership, like I think your partner, she's an agent, right?
Yep.
It's so genius. And for those people that don't know, real estate agents will do a 50% split with you on their side of the commission because listings will get you more listings and get you more buyers. And it's a very prestigious thing when a realtor can get a listing. And all I focused on was listings before RJ. And I had only buyers agents that I would send all of the buyers leads to from that listing. And they would do free open houses for me to get more attraction on the house, and we would cold call the area around the listing. And so I'm trying to use a lot of the listing appointments I had was via Zoom. And so listening to you talking to these guys and sending them contracts on the spot, I'm like, I can do this,
Yeah.
So it's really cool. You kind of giving permission to people to like, hey, you can do this. So it's just a matter of getting those people that have their hands raised to say yes. But then the next piece of this, which I know there's some really expensive options that are the best. They are for sure the best. Investor lift, right? Like I've seen this work and I'm like Artemis mode and stuff. And I'm just like, what? And I haven't invested in it yet, but I'm like, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. So Investor Lift is obviously the tool that we use for dispositions, but I'm also using it during acquisitions. So for example, if I get a lead in the middle of nowhere, Illinois, okay, and I don't recognize the city, I'm going to call that seller. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to call that seller just like it's any other lead. As soon as they answer, hey, do you want to sell? Yes. How much are you looking to get for the property? $40,000. Okay, what you got going on? I'm copying and pasting that address. I'm dropping it into PropStream, Privy, Batch, wherever to do my comps. But then I'm dropping that city into Investor Lift to see how many buyers do I have there? What are their buyer scores? How active are they? How many offers are they actually making? And how many deals are they actually buying? Then I'm going to go decide what my ARV on the property is.
Interesting.
Because if I go into this area, like, for example, we just did a deal in Mount Carmel, Illinois. Okay. So I didn't know anything about Mount Carmel, but what I looked up was, hey, there's quite a few buyers there. Not an astronomical amount. I think it was like 1,100. But hey, 1,100 buyers. All right. Some of them are active. There's good scores going on here. They're making offers. They're buying deals. Let's continue the conversation. Sellers talking, because I asked an open-ended question. Boom, sent over the contract, got it. Now he comes back to us and he says, cool, you moved that one deal for me. I got 13 more for you to sell. Whoa. That is kind of the power of, hey, inbound leads, nationwide, speed to lead and lead Zolo, utilizing Investor Lift's information, the data that they give us. That's kind of our entire business in a box right there.
I love it. I love it. And I've learned that from stalking you online, but I love to have you on the show to really dial it in and talk about things. Cause I know a lot of people reach out to me and they're like, okay, cool. But how do I find buyers on PropStream? And, how do you find investors here? I use Privy. I started getting into that and then finding investors through there and then having to skip trace them. But it's crazy because once you get to the point where you can afford an Investor Lift, once you get to the point where you can pay for these leads up front that are already raising their hands, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like if I can get it under contract, paid $100 for leads, I get it under contract, and then I turn around and I go sell the contract and I make 10,000. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, easily. So our nationwide average. So I did 50-day challenge on YouTube, right? I got 125 properties under contract. The average assignment fee for that was just south of $15,000. I think it was $14,700. I mean, that's me by myself, just here, and then I got my guys doing dispo.
Yeah.
So on acquisitions, it was 2.48 contracts a day, utilizing Lead Zolo, Speed to Lead, and Investor Lift. I mean, it really was the tool, and that's what we're utilizing to dispo all of those deals was Investor Lift.
Mm-hmm. So powerful. So, so this is the road I'm going down, right? This is what I'm doing. I'm following the king closer. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about some closing techniques, right? So, all right. So you get people on who what do you think are the number one things keeping people from pulling the trigger? Like you're talking to somebody, they want to sell. They've said they want to sell. You confirm it's the right person. You confirm the address, right? They essentially came to you. So what do you think is the biggest thing that keeps a contract from, or keeps the conversation from moving down to the point where, yeah, I'll take that price. Let's go.
Well, I think a lot of times it's the closer gets in the way. They make it about them. They want to talk about things that are important to them and not important to the seller. I think if you remove yourself from the equation, what's going to end up happening is the seller is going to talk a lot more. The seller is going to divulge what is important to them. And when human beings do that, they feel like they're being listened to. They feel like they're being heard. And it makes them feel good about themselves. And when people feel good about themselves, it makes them think that you made me feel good, so I want to do business with you. So a lot of times what you'll see is I don't really do a whole lot. I just kind of sit and I listen. And then I might ask a question and then I let them talk. It's not really about me during the conversation. A lot of times I won't even ask them certain questions, right? I'm making assumptions throughout the conversation where based off the information that they're giving me, I'm making some assumptions on the repairs or the rehab, something like that. Instead of all of a sudden out of nowhere where they're in a mental state where they're okay with selling their property, and maybe it's an emotional call, all of a sudden I break that by saying, how old's the roof? It's like,
Oh, it's so funny you say that. That's so true.
they're
Wow, that's
like
good.
7 years, and it's like everything just got blown away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's time and place for everything, and sometimes I will ask that if the seller is not wanting to open up.
Mm,
So if the seller won't open up, what I'll do is I'll ask those close-ended questions. And the reason why is because it makes it easy for them. So what I'll do is how old's the roof? 7 years. What about the HVAC? 3. When was the last time you remodeled the kitchen? Never. Okay. So what was going on with that financial situation again? Now
mm,
I ask an open-ended question. Maybe I open them up enough to where they feel comfortable, where now they'll tell me a little bit more. So it's just
mm.
kind of, I don't like to play a lot of games during the calls. I
Yeah.
just want to try to stay out of the way. So to go back to your question, how do conversations not end up getting to the closing line? I think it's mainly because the closer just gets in the way.
Yeah, he's not really in tune with what the seller's saying, right? Like I'm emotion like a guy I talked to today, his in Orlando, his wife passed away, and he was talking. He's 90 years old, and his wife died a couple years ago, and he can't afford the mortgage payments anymore, so it's in pre-foreclosure. And he's a poor old guy, and he's telling me about it. And so when you said that about the roof, is I had this list of questions so that I could come up with a good ARV or a good maximum allowable
Right.
offer. And I didn't ask any of those things. I said, well, I'm going to do a little research here and I'll get back to you. Okay. And he's like, okay, well, I'm ready to sell. I was just like, this was one of our 1 in 2,000 that the VAs pulled out,
Right.
So, but it's a great,
Well, let me
great,
ask you,
perfect example.
why didn't you try to close it right there?
Okay, that's a great question. So for me, it was like the only way for me to move forward would have been to say, well, well, actually, I kind of probably could have closed it. I think the only thing that kept me was having this old guy sign a contract. He didn't say he had an email, and so I'm over here in New Mexico. So I was like, I got to get with one of my Orlando people. But
Right.
maybe he had a family member who could have an email that has an email, but that was
Yep.
probably the number one, like logical reason. But there was also like an emotional, like, okay, let me do some research. I'll get back to you.
So on those, like when it's a highly emotional call, the reality of it is that a lot of times it feels uncomfortable for us to transition the conversation from them being highly emotional to back to business. But you just got to let them have that moment. I had a brother who wanted to sell a house in Fairbanks, Alaska. I made
Mm,
his offer. He printed it off. It was in his truck. He got murdered 2 weeks later. The brother saw our offer in his truck and he called me during my live. It's on YouTube, and says, hey, I saw this. Do you still want to buy my brother's house? And I said, well, what happened to your brother? And he's like, he got murdered last night. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what happened? And he goes through, it was a bar fight, some stupid, and it's a highly emotional phone call, right? But then we transition back to, hey, he called me because he wanted to sell the house. Another call in Alabama. It was a woman, and she said, my husband, he got killed. That's how she kept saying it. He got killed. And it was kind of like he got killed like in the line of duty or at work or something like that.
interesting.
It didn't necessarily feel like murder. It just sounded like he got killed. And then finally she got around to it. She said, well, RJ, you could actually look this up. He was a part of a mass shooting. He was at work, and a guy that was working at the plant just decided he wanted to kill everybody there and just pulled a gun out and killed everybody and then killed himself. And
Mm,
this is like, these are the types of calls that we open ourselves up to having
yeah,
with
yeah.
sellers, right?
They're
Both of
distressed.
those, both
Yeah.
of those ended up with signed contracts. And I'll tell you, I didn't have to get off the phone. So I had to go through that emotional experience with those sellers and then transition it back to, hey, the reason why you just told me that is because you need to sell your real estate. I don't want you to have to go through that again emotionally.
Mm,
So let's get this done right now during this call.
mm,
So on that, I would say, as uncomfortable as they could possibly be, it is kind of our job. I mean, there's somewhat
yeah.
of a therapist in there,
Yeah. Yeah.
as well as, hey, we're buying your real estate. So yeah, man, crazy calls can happen when we're dealing with highly motivated sellers. Those are just two examples of many
Yeah.
that I've had. So
I appreciate that because when you're calling, you're getting these experiences, it almost seems surreal. It's like, okay, I started off doing this thing, gonna do wholesaling, real estate investing, and you should have little benchmarks for success, right? You get your first deal, you get you do your first JV deal, you do your first novation. So this one thing I want to touch on is you talked about this before, um, and I've heard other people say things like, there's no such thing as a rich wholesaler or a wealthy wholesaler.
right.
And I thought as soon as I'm not going to say his name because he's a big shot or whatever, but I was like, I don't know if that's true. Like, do you know who RJ Bates is, the king closer? Like, so you went down a path of doing right, hearing everyone's opinions, and you went down it. So we want to talk about that a little bit. Like, why stick to wholesale? Curious.
Well, that's where I started. I found a lot of success in it early on, 2015, 2016, 2017, and then 2018. I heard all those whispers, and
Yeah.
I started buying a lot of properties. We bought a lot of flips. We bought a lot of rentals. And the problem there is, I wasn't a great flipper. I wasn't a great landlord. I was a great wholesaler. Those are
Yeah.
three different businesses. So just
Yeah.
because you're good at one doesn't mean you're going to be good at the other two, just so you know.
Yeah.
There's different SOPs for those businesses. I tried to simultaneously run those three different types of businesses, and we failed. Pretty bad. Lost a lot of money, almost bankrupted our company. We one point in time we had 68 properties just in St. Louis, Missouri. That was one of 12 different states that we own properties in. And the thing about it is the way to recover from the losses that we had, the flips that went bad, the rentals that we lost, was by going back to virtual wholesaling, going back to our bread and butter. It's what we do. And is it long-term wealth generating? No, it is a transactional business, and that's understood. That doesn't mean that we need to stop doing it.
Right.
It's what the foundation, it's what Titanium Investments is.
Cash
And
flow too, right? That's
yeah,
such a big, what you do with your cash, how you invest your cash is up to you. But like Warren Buffett says, your number one asset is your ability to earn, like
yep,
your ability to earn your revenue. So you increase your skills, whatever it is that you're best at, that's what you should focus on. And you're the king closer. So why wouldn't you be closing?
yeah. Well, and that was the thing. I was closing. I was just closing for myself, and then we weren't earning. I mean, we were just accumulating more inventory, and it was like when we did sell, it was like, okay, well, so we sold a flip. That's great. That covers like next month's mortgage payments for everything.
For everything.
Well, what's up? What's else? Like, what do we live off of? I mean, we overwhelmed ourselves, and it was mistakes that we made. I've learned from them.
Yeah.
And getting back to wholesaling, in 2020 has been the best decision that we could have ever made. And so, I don't disagree with people that buy real estate. Obviously, I mean, we
Yeah.
still do it. We still buy rentals and flips ourselves, just not, hey, 50 at a time. That was just pure dumbassery.
You're inventing words now. I love it. Yeah. Well, so one of the things I like to really break things down to, okay, is we talked about the different ways, But what advice would you give to somebody who was just getting started and they say they didn't have even $100? And I know what I would tell that person, but what would you tell that person? Should they go earn some cash somewhere else doing something else? Or could they actually just get started in wholesale without having all the software and bells and whistles that you do?
Yeah, I mean that's a little bit tough. I mean, $100. I'm probably gonna say, man, there's so many talented people in this world. You should probably go work for a couple of them. Go work for somebody.
Okay. Yeah.
Do acquisitions for them, and under the pretense that, hey, in the next 2 to 3 years, I'm gonna go do this on my own. It's my dream. Now, if that's not something you want to do, and you're stubborn like me, and you're like, no, 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 it's okay. I got $100. I'm gonna figure it out. Direct to agent. I mean, you can get deals off the MLS. Don't cost you any money on marketing. And you could turn around and you could JV that deal with a big box wholesaler like a Keegley. You talked about there's no wealthy wholesalers out there. Jamil Damji is a wealthy wholesaler,
Yeah.
for sure. That dude's a beast. Partner up with him or one of his franchises. Partner up with us, JV with us, whoever. I mean,
Yeah.
find a local person at JV, so you don't have to worry about dispositions. You take 50% of the deal, and you just turn your $100 into what 100 quarter pounders at McDonald's, and you didn't have to spend anything on your real estate business, and you got a deal. And if you made 10 grand, you just walked away with 5. Now you got 5 grand.
Yeah.
Go take 1,000 of that, buy you 10 lead Zolo leads, close one of them. Now you go get another deal for 15 grand. Now you got 75 plus your 4. Now you're up to 11.5, and the ball just keeps rolling.
Love it. Love it.
That's how you get the thing going. But the thing is you can't be afraid. And you got to keep swiping the card and pulling the trigger.
Yeah. What's funny about that, as you're saying all this, I'm thinking the thing that keeps people from doing any of this is just mindset, and it's like you hear people, like if you ever pay for a course or you get into a mentorship, and the first few videos are always on mindset and you always roll your eyes and scroll to the next ones. But the reality is this is what keeps people from taking action. It's like,
Yep.
well, I can't, JV with someone, split 50% or work for somebody else. I mean, think about if you were able to sit next to the king closer himself and watch those deals happen, watch those checks getting deposited. Is there a chance? Like a guy called me yesterday, and I won't mention his name, but he works for one of these guys that specialize in innovations. And actually, I think he's got a follow-up call tomorrow. He wants to try to sell me something, which is whatever, it's cool. But I love it because I'm a salesman myself. So I love to hear somebody, I'm like, oh yeah, tell me more about that,
Right.
to see how they transition or give all my different, spills. And at the end, I'm like, you did pretty good, man. And what happens often is that they do sell me and I'm like, okay, all right, let's try it. Let's give it a shot,
Right.
because you get to learn about all the things they're doing. But if you can get past, what do they say? The 3-inch or 4-inch? I'll say 8 inches on mine. It just,
You and me both, brother.
yeah, yeah. I love seeing you up there on stage with all those suits, man. It was pretty cool. I was like, yeah,
Belt,
you're like
baby. Yeah.
king
Hey,
closer,
listen,
man.
real quick, because you were talking about, hey, you could be sitting right next to me. I got 4 kids working here. 3 are 21 years old, and another one's 24. You know how they found me? TikTok. They watched me on TikTok. They watched me on TikTok, and they reached out and said, hey, man, can I come work for you?
Dang, that's
Sure.
That's smart of them.
Sure. You can come work for me. Guess what? They're now, it's like I told them the other day. I told one of them, I said, dude, by the time you're my age, you will have had 20 years of experience in real estate investing. He's going to be a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, write his own paycheck, man. But the thing that people don't realize too is that you don't have to go start another business. Like you can invest in things, like in multifamily, for example. You're making all this cash doing the wholesaling thing. You put it in a multifamily, and you get 2.5 times return your money after 5 months, right? So whatever it is that you can do to earn cash, you do that, and then you go invest passively in things that you know are going to make you money. You stockpile a bunch of it as well for those just like no-brainer opportunities that come about. And I love what you said about the kids, because I got twin 14-year-old boys and an 11-year-old princess, and they all have jobs in my companies. And I'm excited to teach one of my sons. His name's Skylar. I'm excited to teach him wholesale. I said, as soon as your voice starts to change a little bit, we're gonna get you on the phones, because
Hey, man,
he's got the gift of gab.
Our last 2-day boot camp here, we had a 13-year-old.
Oh man,
13-year-old student. He's
what is
ready.
he?
He's getting on the phones, man.
What do they say? Like, who are your parents? Or no?
I don't know. He figures out how to overcome that objection. I told him, I can't help you, brother. I got a deep voice. You're gonna have to figure that one out yourself.
It's funny, because some kids at like 10, 11 years old, they do kind of have kind of a deep voice.
Right.
And like, and that's it. Once they get on the phone, if they know the script, and they know, well, they know the motivation, and they know like the goals that we're trying to accomplish as we close the deal. I'm not at all pretending to be an expert. I'm learning, I'm soaking up all the knowledge, and that's why I have the show. Actually, I've gotten so much free coaching over the years just interviewing
Yeah.
people.
I love it. That's why I started a podcast. I started a podcast in 2017, and I said, hey, I'm doing it because I want to give back to the investing community. But I also said,
Yeah.
I looked at Cassie and I was like, dude, people come on my podcast, and it's like I get a free hour session where I can ask them anything I want. It's
For real.
amazing.
There's not a thing. I mean, if I asked you and you didn't want to tell me, you would be like, well, I can't tell you that, because
Right.
it's when you're on someone's show, like, it's like, hey, what do you, so, one thing I love to get into, and then we can start wrapping up here, because I appreciate your time. But as you're doing the business, and you got all these different moving parts, like, what are you most fired up about right now? Like, what is that thing that you're most fired up about?
Man, it's funny because it's not something that I ever actively was going out and trying to create. Just made a lot of mistakes along the way. And then in 2020, I made a decision. Hey, I'm going to do 50 deals in 50 states in 50 days live on YouTube. Did all of that through texting. I got invited to do the Closers Olympics, which is this competition where we all, 12 of us go and we compete to see who's the best closer. And I was actually nervous before the first Closers Olympics. No one had ever seen me talk to a seller live on video before.
Oh.
And I did the Closers Olympics and got 2 verbal agreements in 30 minutes, and everyone freaked out. And then 2021, I won the Closers Olympics. And then in 2022, I went to an event in San Antonio called Wholesale Live and got a signed contract in front of 500 people on stage in 16 minutes. And then in 2023, I won the Closers Olympics again. And so when you win the Closers Olympics, they give you these belts. And it says King Closer on it. So we've been teaching people for 3 years now how to do virtual wholesaling. And it's come to my attention that, hey, RJ, you're the King Closer. That's what everybody calls me. Like everywhere I go, it's like, oh, you're the King Closer. I didn't start calling myself that. They just put it on the belt. And so the thing I'm most excited about right now is our new King Closer formula that's coming out. It's going to be our 2-day boot camp here at our office. We're going to have some other things coming out in 2024, but November 9th and 10th, here in Fort Worth, Texas, we're going to be going through everything that we do step by step. We're going to show you, hey, I'm going to outline everything that, from the beginning of the call to the end of the call, how I close. Cassie's going to go over how we're underwriting those calls, and then we're literally going to give everyone in attendance our leads, and we're going to give them to you to close.
Wow.
And you close the deal, you get to walk away with 50% of the profits, a JV deal. So not only are you coming in here to get the knowledge, but we want you to walk out of here profitable. I don't think anyone else is doing that type of an event. So I'm super excited about it because the brand has been built on closing deals live where everyone can see. Now the education is going to be built around closing deals live, walking away profitable. It's no longer, hey, I invested in education. It's I was profitable by being educated.
Ah, that's so good. The thing is, like, when we go to invest in stuff, like whatever training it is, the different mentorships and coachings and all this, or communities, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
right? You start to learn that, like, what it is my network. And as I grow my network, my net worth grows. And
Yep.
one of the reasons why is because you download knowledge from other people, but also when the time comes that I have a problem, it's not what or how, it's who. And it's so true. And like, just like, when, like I said, I don't like cold calling, and but I know it's a part of real estate. And then I learn about this inbound marketing thing, and then meet you, someone who's perfected the idea of it. Like, really, you've perfected it. Like, listening to you, and I know there's little clips on TikTok, but if you
Yep.
go to YouTube and you watch the 8-hour videos, which I watched a lot of them, it's like, okay, I just turn it on my big screen in the living room and making dinner, working, doing whatever I'm doing. And then I hear, joking with Cassie and doing all this. But that's what it almost gives permission for those people who have mindset issues. Is like, dude, it's just you. Like, just go take action and
Yep.
you can do it. I'm no offense, you're the king closer,
Right.
but you're a man with flaws.
Yep.
You've just built these skills that allow you to be able to be hyper successful in
Dude, I
wholesale.
think there was probably 10 or so calls over the 50 days where I got off the call and I was like, yeah, I could have done better on that one. That one definitely was not that one wasn't good. Probably could have said something different there. It happens.
Edit that one out.
Right. But the thing about that is that's why I love the live videos. I
Yeah,
love it because it, like you said, it gives you permission to be you, right?
yeah,
You can't come be me and I can't come be you.
right.
First of all, I wouldn't enjoy that. And I didn't enjoy it when I was trying to be somebody else. So that's why I love this process that we have down now, where it's all about, hey, being yourself. Yeah, there's a script there to a certain degree. That's why we call it a formula. It's more of
Yeah,
like, hey, here's the guidelines that you follow.
yeah.
But it really is circled around, hey, you kind of stay away, but just be yourself.
Yeah, so good. So good. So what's your parting piece of advice for that person that's out there crushing it? We're going to put all the links below, by the way, on your deal. I'll make sure I get the right links.
Yep.
People can sign up for your event there. Plus, Texas is just fun. You got to go to you said San Antonio, or are you doing it in Dallas?
No, Fort Worth,
Fort Worth. Okay.
the
That's a
good
great
part of
wholesale market.
the good part of DFW.
That's a great wholesale market from what I understand.
It is. It's a really good one.
Good, good. Well, I look forward to doing some deals with you there. And we already talked about how to get started and stuff, but just general advice for someone who's about to get started on their journey. What would you tell them?
I'll give the quick 1 minute spiel of this. Okay. Determine your headshot concept. Headshot concept means make it plain where you could call your mom and you can say, hey, mom, this is what I do. And she could repeat it to anyone and explain what that means. For example, I'm a nationwide virtual wholesaler. Anywhere in the United States, no belly to belly appointments. Everything's virtual and I'm wholesaling those properties. Determine what that is. Stop searching for unicorns. Find someone you want to be like. Use the same systems. You want to be Pace Morby? Go to follow Pace Morby and whatever systems he says he's using, use those systems. Okay. Then focus your habits. Whatever those habits are going to be, is going to be your processes. So for me, I say the exact same things over and over and over again. I comp the same way over and over and over again. I write contracts the same way over and over and over again. Then be consistent as a tree. Okay. There's nothing more consistent than a tree. If you're consistent like that, you'll succeed. Create your own reality. That's the best advice I can give anybody out there.
I love it. I'm going to listen to it on replay every single day until I reach all of my goals. And I think that all of you guys can do the same. I know a lot of the people that I've had on the show have very similar, different perspective, different places in the world. We're all a little bit different. And that's what's kind of cool about real estate too, is like every single person you talk to has a different problem to solve. Some of them will start to seem somewhat similar, but they all are humans. That's what makes it different. They all have the human element that makes it different. And the fact is, when you mentioned that thing about the area that there weren't very many investors, and then you're like there were 1,100. Like it kind of blows my mind, because I'll spend sometimes hours, and my VAs now are helping me with it, but skip tracing those LLCs for investors in that city, and we might get 200, and you're like, man, we're set for investors in that area. And then investor looks like, yeah, we don't have too many. It's like 1,100.
I thought that, which houses they bought, how much they bought it for, when they sold it. Yeah. It's pretty badass cool.
It's a no-brainer. Well, listen, there's a lot of different ways you guys can actually get those tools as well. RJ, what are some of the places they could go? Let's funnel people to the right places, right? We don't want them to just go look it up.
Listen, the best place to follow me and to find out all this stuff is YouTube. Okay. My YouTube channel, just search RJ Bates III. All the tools are going to show up on different videos. There's links on there and stuff like that. But hey, it's more about watching the videos and taking the actions that I'm doing there. And if you're like, hey, I could do this, then just literally replicate what I do. So I tell people all the time, just copy exactly what I do. It's nothing special. Just go do it, baby.
Well, I'm going to copy you. So when you tell me, like, is that my line? I'm going to say, yeah, that's you. That's you. You just came, King Closer just took over my body and like closed the deal for me, like, subconsciously or whatever, some kind of
do it, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, RJ. I appreciate you, man. Well, I look forward to doing deals with you at business, and I'll be at that King Closer. What do you call it? A boot camp? What are you calling it?
It's the King Closer's formula.
Yes, I'm excited about that. Guys, go follow RJ. Go check out his YouTube channel. I have downloaded countless hours of information from him, and I'm excited. I've been putting it to work already, and I'm excited to keep going. And this journey, this whole Sunbelt wholesaler project that I'm doing is going to be all about building a wholesale company from scratch, and we've already light years ahead of where I thought we would be just here in the last week. So thank you so much, RJ. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks for having me on, man.
All right, guys, listen, you can do what I'm doing. You can do what RJ's doing. And I want to see you at that boot camp. If I don't see you there, I better not see you.
For more great content like this and your chance to win cash prizes each week live online, visit www.mightymikereed.com. That's www.mightymikereed.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite audio platform. Until next time, take care and live mighty.